Hi, my name is Jason29. I hope you guys are having a great day, and today I'm going to be talking about a legendary rivalry which has been around for a very, very long time. Before I was even born, this actually existed, and that is the rivalry between critics and audiences. Let's get into this. Before we get into the actual content, which I'll be discussing, it's important to know why I'm doing this video. At least I think it's important to know. I think in 2019 it finally reached a high point between the critics and the audience, because in regards to film and TV shows, they just can't agree anymore. And I think it's important to figure out what kind of things happened which led up to this in a more speculative way from my side. So yeah, what I'll be doing is I'll mention three things. I'm going to talk about comedy special, movie, and a fun fact. TV show. So now we can get into this. You guys could have guessed this was going to be on here. For people who don't know what Sticks and Stones is a comedy special by legendary comedian and comedic genius Dave Chappelle. I personally don't think this was Dave Chappelle's best comedy special, but I do think it was hilarious. Now, let's discuss what actually was controversial about this. Now, the controversy itself isn't actually with Dave Chappelle's comedy special, it's with Rotten Tomatoes. For people who don't know what Rotten Tomatoes is a review aggregator site. Essentially, you can take, they basically take a bunch of reviews from critics and then blaster them together, and that creates a score which either means the thing which was critiqued is fresh or it's rotten. And normally what tends to happen, at least from what I've seen, is critic scores go up first, then audience scores come up second. This makes sense because critics review movies or TV shows, comedy specials, before the audience does. This backfired big time with Sticks and Stones. And let me try to explain my understanding of what happened. From my understanding, 5 critics reviewed Sticks and Stones and hated it. I'm not going to go after any of these 5 critics or say like their critique was invalid. I haven't read those, and I don't really plan on reading them. It's more the way Rotten Tomatoes did this. Essentially, Rotten Tomatoes took these 5 critics and took their reviews to create their critic aggregated score. And this score came to 0%. And that means this comedy special is awful from a critic's standpoint. So, normally this is the thing though. Google, once you type in Sticks and Stone, will show the critic score, not the audience score. Hence, if you were to go online, be like, oh, is Sticks and Stones even worth watching? You'll see like that Rotten Tomatoes score and be like, oh, no, not gonna watch it. Can't. That's bad. And that's when the plot twist happens. And you might be wondering what it was. Plot twist is the audience ended up giving Sticks and Stones a 99%. This was, I think, at the time the biggest difference in a score ever on Rotten Tomatoes, or at least even if it wasn't, it was a huge difference. Normally, the difference shouldn't be too big, at least 20% or something. But this was huge because this just meant critics hated it so much, but audiences loved it. And the question then stems, why? Or what exactly happened? Well, essentially, Rotten Tomatoes got accused of trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. And rightfully so. Dave Chappelle doesn't deserve to get cancelled. He's a talented comedian, and is one of the comedians which people love to watch because he does dare tackle these issues and make fun of them. And yeah, that's really all I can say about that. But the question then becomes more, what did Rotten Tomatoes think? And I think I know what they thought. And here's my answer to what they probably thought. They wanted a controversy. That's my answer. I'll explain. Essentially, one could make the argument like because the content of the special is very, you know, edgy. He's making very edgy jokes which are like, is he crossing that line? Is he not? We'll see. It stirs up the debate again, should comedians be allowed to say whatever the hell they want? And this rating sadly backfired on Rotten Tomatoes because it made them seem very ignorant to the perception of what audiences like in comedy. Audiences like edgy humor, I believe, more than safe humor. Self-deprecating humor works as well, but there's only so much you can do with that. And some people are fed up with a lot of stuff in today's society where we have to be careful to offend someone. So seeing someone make fun of that gives people a bit of like hope. Like, oh, we can make fun of these things. These things can be viewed as jokes. We don't always have to take them so literal or, serious. And that's the big thing which Dave Chappelle hit perfectly in his special. And it made critics look really bad. And that's not good for the critics. So audiences got their fill. They had a win. Since the controversy, I'm not sure if the audience score has changed, but I did notice once I checked it again, like the critic score went up to about 33%, which essentially means more critic reviews came in, and it means like out of all of the critics, 33% of those thought it was a, like, let's say out of 10, they gave at least a 5 or higher. So you can at least say something was done about that. But that's all I have about that one. Time to the next controversy. I'm sadly not edgy enough to be smoking cigarettes inside my room. So, The Joker was one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it deserves all the praise it has received. Yes, I do get some of the criticisms. I'm not going to really say there's many bad reviews of the movie. It was mainly positively received. It's just the backlash which happened, and this led to another controversy of sorts. A weird one, but let's get into it. This movie's controversy doesn't really, in my opinion, stem from the critics, more from the media's interpretation. The media took like a few of the critics like things and over exaggerated the whole situation. Critics were mainly just pointing out like this movie kind of seems like it's directed at incels, which is a subculture on the internet filled with mostly men or young men or, I don't know, older men who definitively do need help of some kind to work out some of their emotional issues which they're going through. I'm not saying that to insult them, I'm just saying that's how they seem to me. I do pity most of the people in that community. I think it's fair to say, though, like, this movie isn't directed at any of those people. Because this movie is about something completely different than what the media thinks it is. But before I tell you what I think the movie is about, I'll tell you what the media actually thinks the movie's about. The media essentially feared like this movie could cause a mass shooting of some kind, and I mean it didn't, and I wasn't surprised by that, but I guess they were. And it's been argued now whether or not the media wanted a mass shooting to happen and all that stuff, but that's not really relevant. It's why why think that? Why would you want, or not even want, why would you accuse a movie of causing violence of any kind? It's never been linked together. Anyone who's caused violence after playing a video game or seeing a movie, it's mostly because before they did that, they were already sick. This movie just showed them a way to use that. But most of the time, the movie or the video game isn't directly supporting any of these things. So yeah. Essentially, it then comes down to the media hates maybe what I think is the message of the movie and something they know they are possibly guilty of doing. To summarize, the only other thing I heard was, um, I think like the right wing media, you could say, they were trying to use this against like the left wing media, because the left wing media were the ones who were talking about all the drama which I've just mentioned. But the right wing media were like, "Ha, this is proof like they don't like anything which isn't woke." When I'm like, the joke was so woke, so woke, so woke. It was easily the wokest movie of 2019, and probably, or at least maybe not the wokest, but definitely the most mainstream wokest film of 2019. It made over 1 billion. So yeah, mainstream. So yeah, I'm going to get to the next topic, and that is a TV show. This one's more recent, and this has less to do with like the political aspects, which the first two have been for. This is really a bad critiquing. And let's get into the. I watched the first season of The Witcher, and I have to admit, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. I'm currently rewatching it because I had a great time with it. The reason I'm actually rewatching it is, first off, because I enjoyed it. Second off, now I know like how the whole plot looks. I'm like, oh, now I might pick up on smaller details which I missed first time viewing it. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Um, the problem though in this case is more the Entertainment Weekly review. Essentially, these two critics, they reviewed the first. No, they didn't review anything, did they? They reviewed nothing. Their criticism's completely invalid. They don't know why I'm mentioning it. Okay, I'll try this again. Essentially, they. God damn it. Okay. It was two critics who watched the show and reviewed the whole first season. However, they didn't watch the whole show. Now I can talk about correctly. Good. Basically, one of these critics only watched episode 1 and 2. And she watched the second one because she felt like obliged to watch it for her job. And the other guy who was also watching it, he was the one who was initially to watch it. He watched the first episode and then skipped to episode 5 and then both of them like got together and decided to like review and talk about it. And the thing is, this would have worked, and I'll explain how this could have worked. Just make an episode 1 review. What I mean actually is, it's not that hard to do. If you haven't seen the whole show, but you have seen one episode, both of you combined have watched one episode each. So you have. In order to, before you guys are like, but I've only watched 3 episodes, let me explain that. He watched episode 1, she watched episode 1, then she watched 2, and he watched 5. Totally, they have seen 3 episodes combined, but both of them only have 1 episode in common. So they should just review that episode and just be like, that episode was garbage. We didn't enjoy that episode at all. And that would be fine. If it was good critiquing, yes. I mean, in their case, it was more nitpicking. But it's still, okay, you can see like, okay, they didn't enjoy it. That's fair enough. That's fine. Maybe that wouldn't bother the audience. And it clearly didn't, because the audience loved this show. This show is beloved by audiences by a lot. The critics thing went from rotten to fresh. That's how insane the critics are having to change their views now. And this is going to lead into my summary of the whole thing. I think critics nowadays need to look at more what was something trying to be, rather than forcing their perspectives into everything. With Sticks and Stones, it's clear they aren't that sure how to review comedy specials. And comedy specials is a very thing to critique, because it's like, do we could critique the content or do we critique the comedian's performance? If you're watching this, you know which one I think should be correct. For me, it's the comedian's performance, which should be number 1 thing to watch. Because if they perform well, most of the time you can get why people would find it funny. If they don't perform well, obviously they're not good comedians. Same with the Joker. Instead of trying to assume what audience member would like it, assume what the movie did, and maybe audiences will like that aspect of the film. Maybe audiences will like the idea of someone, becoming a murderer. No, liking the idea of someone like going for a downward spiral, but seeing how they went down that downward spiral, what led to them becoming this psychopath and that would already make that problem easier. With The Witcher, however, it's a different case, because there it's just, do your job, or rename your review titles. You guys are on Rotten Tomatoes, certified fresh critics. You guys can critique a whole show without seeing the whole show. this is disturbing in a sense, like it's making shows and movies which are potentially good, and comedy specials as well, which are also potentially funny, look really bad just because you don't want to do your job. Grow up. And that's that. So, if you've enjoyed this video, which I hope you've had, and I hope you again will probably have a great day, I am Jason29. I'm planning on uploading more videos about stuff which I find interesting. And if you find it interesting, awesome. And if not, that's fine. But I would appreciate a like, maybe even add a comment what you thought of this video, what you guys think could be better. And subscribe. And put the notifications on. See us.